The Girl Scout Spirit of Nebraska Honor Guard will present the colors. The National Anthem and Pledge of Allegiance will follow. Armed Forces members and veterans who are not in uniform may render the military salute in the same manner provided for individuals in uniform. Please rise if you are able.
Stand by. Colors. Attention. Port arms. Forward march. Left. 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 Colors. Halt. Present arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Put your hand for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pour arms. Colors turn march.
Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day ceremony. I am Brodey Weber and I was elected earlier this year to the Lincoln City Council. And on behalf of the city's elected officials and as a proud son of a veteran, I would like to welcome everyone to today's ceremony. The attack on Pearl Harbor was an act of profound tragedy. Yet from the ashes of destruction arose the resilience and courage of a nation united. We remember the pain and the suffering endured by those who survived, and we honor the families forever changed by the events of that day. The echoes of Pearl Harbor resonate through time, urging us never to forget the true cost of freedom. Today, we not only commemorate the past, but also acknowledge the enduring spirit that emerged from the deepest depths of despair. As we remember Pearl Harbor, let us also reflect on the responsibility that we all bear to preserve the legacy of those who have served. Their sacrifices, made decades ago, continue to shape the world that we live in today. Let their stories be eternally etched in our collective memory, inspiring us to uphold the principles for which they fought. I'm reminded of what Bobby Kennedy Sr. once said, which is, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest form of appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. May we carry forward the lessons of Pearl Harbor, lessons of resilience and unity and the enduring spirit of freedom. Today we stand united in gratitude for the sacrifices of the past and in a commitment for a future that honors their legacy. I would now like to introduce Joe Brownell, one of our Veteran Memorial Garden Advisory Council members, who will serve as our Master of Ceremonies. Thank you.
Good morning, or actually I said good afternoon, and thank you, Councilman Weber, for your words of welcome and for your service to our city. Thank you. Thank you all to the Girl Scouts, Spirit of Nebraska Honor Guard, and to our musicians from the Southwood Lutheran Men's Quartet. As Councilmember Weber noted, I am Joe Brownell, and I'm a member of our illustrious Veterans Memorial Garden Council. The council was established in 1991 by then Mayor Bill Harris to provide guidance regarding the development and management of Veterans Memorial Garden. We hope that you will have a few extra minutes today to take a stroll through the garden and take a look at it. It is a jewel here in our city, all right? It is really a jewel. I've served 28 years in the Air Force, been all over, and I hope you all know what a jewel that we really have, and hopefully you all share that with people, not only here in Lincoln, but throughout the state of Nebraska. But today we gather here at Auld, right next door to the garden, and we want to remember the events of December 7th, 1941. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize a few individuals. We have Benny Shobe here. Benny, thank you for being here, appreciate it. Did Maggie show up? No? I've just, for personal note, like to recognize the director of the Lincoln Parks and Rec, Maggie Stuckey-Ross. She does a great job supporting what we do here in the garden and what we do as far as the council. So again, thank you to her and what she does. And thank you, we also have a number of Veterans Memorial Council members that are here besides myself. So if they would raise their hands if you're on the council, please. If you see them afterwards, please tell them thank you for all the work that they do. And also, if somebody's interested in being part of the council, please see me or one of the members afterwards, and we'd like to talk with you about other opportunities in the future.
Councilman Duden.
Oh, excuse me.
Councilman.
Please direct to Councilman Duden. Sorry, sir. Welcome and thank you. At this time, I'd like to introduce Diane Bartels, who is a longtime member of our events committee and actually part of the council as well. She will be delivering today's invocation. Ms. Bartels.
Allow me to pray. On this day, December 7, 2023, we have gathered to reflect upon the supreme sacrifice made by so many Americans at Pearl Harbor and nearby airfields 82 years ago today. We are reminded that our community includes people of many faiths, perhaps shared by some of the 38 Nebraskans and thousands of others who gave their lives that day for their and our country. Their courage is not uncommon in the story of America, a story of heroes whose sacrifice and valor speak to the love of comrades and country, and whose goodness guides our quest for lasting peace. Today and every day we draw strength from the moment wherein the best among us defended an island and a nation from the onslaught of tyranny and forever altered the course of our history. We remember the brave men and women who fought to defend our country. We honor their sacrifice, and we pledge never to forget. Amen.
Thank you, Diane, and thank you for your many years of service. Thank you. I'd like to introduce our guest speaker today, Peg Murphy. Ms. Murphy is a member of the Sons and Daughters of the Pearl Harbor Survivors, a national organization of descendants of military personnel who were stationed at Pearl Harbor and other military installations on the island of Oahu, Territory, Hawaii, on December 7, 1941. The organization also includes other groups and individuals who promote their mission to never forget the sacrifices made in defending America and preserving our freedom and democracy. We would like to recognize other members of the Sons and Daughters of Pearl Harbor Survivors here this morning. Members, if you would please rise. Thank you all for your efforts. Thank you. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Murphy, who will be talking this afternoon about her father, Edward Guthrie. Ms. Murphy?
Thank you for asking me to tell the story of my dad, Ed Guthrie. Ed was not only a dad and grandfather, but a World War II hero, as well as a very special part of our family. My dad was born during the flu pandemic in 1918, and he was raised in Omaha, Nebraska. He graduated from Technical High School, where he played golf and was the state golf champion his senior year. Times were hard for him and his 3 siblings, so he decided to see the world, and he enlisted in the U.S. Navy on October 28, 1940, at the age of 22. Ed was sent to basic training in Dearborn, Michigan. His military training as an electrician mate took place at the Henry Ford automotive plant. He would regularly see Henry Ford walking through the plant, inspecting the assembly line and the troops. 2 months later, after he was certified as an electrician, he was sent to San Diego and was assigned to the USS Whitney, which was a destroyer tender. A destroyer tender's responsibility was to provide maintenance support, mostly to destroyers, but smaller ships as well. The USS Whitney sailed for Hawaii and docked in Pearl Harbor to provide support to all the ships that were moored there. Ed's time in Hawaii was initially very enjoyable. He roller skated competitively, which he did throughout his deployment, and he kept busy with his other duties. On the day of the attack, the USS Whitney was docked with a group of 5 other ships. 4 of those ships were in dry dock undergoing maintenance, and the other ship, the USS Cunningham, was a destroyer. A short distance away was a group of battleships: the USS Maryland, the USS Oklahoma, the USS West Virginia, the USS Tennessee, the USS Arizona, the USS Nevada, and the USS Vestal. All of these ships were near Ford Island Naval Air Station. On December 7, 1941, about 10 months after arriving in Pearl Harbor, Ed was sitting on the top deck of the ship reading a comic book. It was a Sunday, and most of the shipmates had gone ashore for church and other activities. He heard and saw a group of planes approaching the harbor. There were U.S. warplanes that routinely flew over the harbor and dropped sandbags on the decks of the ships that were moored there as a training exercise, so Ed assumed that this was the case. But the planes were much lower this time, and he looked up and saw the red circle on the aircraft and the pilots' smiling faces and red scarves blowing in the wind as they flew over his ship. Ed then knew that the harbor was being attacked. Before he could get off the top deck of the ship, he saw the huge explosions that rocked the battleships nearby. He saw the smokestacks of the USS Arizona explode, and he headed for his duty station. The battleships were the main targets of the Japanese, and so the USS Whitney was not damaged. The surprise attack just lasted over an hour and left a surreal scene in the harbor. over 2,400 people died, including 46 Nebraskans. 29 of those Nebraskans served on the USS Arizona. The next few days were very chaotic. Ed spent several days in a small boat retrieving dead and wounded servicemen out of the oil-slickened waters with constant billowing black smoke. One of those days he saw a $5 bill that was oil-soaked and floating in the water. He retrieved it and stuck it in his pocket and eventually stuck it in his wallet. That $5 bill stayed in his wallet for over 45 years as a reminder of the horrific things that he encountered that day. After many, many years, our family finally talked him into taking it out of his wallet to be preserved. Toward the end of World War II, Ed was assigned to the USS Banner, which was an attack transport vessel that was commissioned in 1944. The USS Whitney, the ship that he had served on in Pearl Harbor, was an older ship and it was in need of repairs. Ironically, the USS Banner was actually named after Banner County in western Nebraska. The Banner served the Asiatic Pacific during the rest of World War II and helped liberate the Philippines. After the war was over, Ed's ship participated in the first atomic bomb test at the Bikini Atoll near the Marshall Islands. This was in February of 1946. Several older ships, including the USS Whitney that Ed had served on in Pearl Harbor, were grouped in a group in the ocean, and there were numerous other ships surrounding them. Located on this group of older ships were small animals and many other items that had been placed on the ship. The first atomic test bomb was then dropped on the group of older ships, and the sailor's job was to observe what happened during the bomb drop. A second test bomb was then dropped. Ed said that one of the ships was an aircraft carrier, and after the second test bomb was dropped, the aircraft carrier totally lifted out of the water so that he could see space between the ship and the top of the water. It was quite a sight to see. A short time after the second test bomb was dropped, the sailors, including my dad, were transported by small boats to the bombed ships and went aboard with no protective gear to make observations. Each was assigned an item to take notes on: paper, plastic, leather, animals, etc. Years later, about 90% of those observers developed bladder cancer, including my dad. Ed was honorably discharged on November 14, 1946, after serving 6 years, and returned to Omaha. Shortly after arriving home, he met my mother, Janet, and they were married for 72 years until her death in 2020. They raised 3 children and were grandparents to 6 grandchildren and 12 great-grandchildren. After Ed's discharge, he continued working as an electrician and was employed at OPPD for 34 years. After work, he participated in many sports, including roller skating and ice skating, and coached many little league teams. He continued golfing into his early 90s. After retirement, Ed volunteered for many years at a hospital in Omaha, as well as at our church. He helped all of our families with whatever was needed and didn't miss many of the grandchildren's sporting events. Ed was an officer in the Nebraska Pearl Harbor Survivors Association, and he gave numerous talks to high school students about the attack on Pearl Harbor so that our country, especially the younger generation, would not forget what happened that December day. Ed traveled to Hawaii every 5 years to commemorate the December 7th anniversary. His last trip there was in 2016, the 75th anniversary of the bombing. He was 98 years old and was accompanied by 22 members of our family. Also in Hawaii that December were several high school ROTC students from Benson High School in Omaha. Ed had mentored the students for the previous 2 years and helped them fundraise for their trip to march in the commemoration parade in Honolulu. My dad, Ed Guthrie, passed away January 7th, 2021 at the age of 102. He had lived through and survived the COVID pandemic, reminiscent of the flu pandemic that he had been born during 100 years earlier. The Veterans Memorial Garden here in Lincoln holds a special place in the hearts of our family. Besides a brick honoring my dad, there is a brick honoring my late brother Jim, who was a highly decorated Vietnam veteran. Also in the garden is the Pearl Harbor Survivors Monument and benches that my dad and the other Nebraska Pearl Harbor survivors worked tirelessly to raise the money for. Their names are engraved on the back of the monument. Thank you for listening to my dad's story. He is indeed our family hero, but he would be so grateful to you for your interest in commemorating the date of December 7th, 1941 as an important date in the history of our country, lest we forget.
Ms. Murphy, thank you very much for sharing those thoughts and for those memories. As you said, it's important that we never forget. At this time, I'll turn it over to our musicians again for the Navy hymn. Gentlemen.
Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea. O Christ, whose voice the waters heard, and hushed their raging at thy word, who walkest on the foaming deep, and calm amidst its rage did sleep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea. Most Holy Spirit, who didst brood upon the chaos dark and rude, and bids its angry tumult cease, and give for wild confusion peace. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea.
Thank you, gentlemen. I would like to ask at this time, please stand as we observe a moment of silence to remember and honor those service members who have paid the ultimate price, particularly those lost on the morning of December 7th, 1941.
Present post.
Please be seated. Thank you to Mr. Averill. Mr. Averill is a graduate of North Star High School and a member of the UNL Jazz Orchestra. He has played for a number of our events, also for the Veterans of Foreign Wars events, and we want to thank him again for TAP today. Thank you. At this time, we're going to turn it back over to Ms. Bartels for a benediction.
Allow me to pray. We give thanks, God, for allowing us to gather here today to honor our sacred obligation to remember those who gave their lives for our country that day and since. We honor our sacred obligation to care for our service members and their families, our veterans, their caregivers, and survivors. Help us, O God, to live our lives and behave in such manner to be worthy of the lofty ideals for which so many courageous men and women have sacrificed so much. God bless the sons and daughters of the Pearl Harbor survivors who are sharing the stories of their loved ones. We learn the stories in our own time, like that of Edward Guthrie, so we can continue to have a nation that's worthy of them and what they did. God bless them and all who are here today. Let us strive to reaffirm the principles of freedom and justice, the cornerstones of our nation. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to ask everybody to stand, if you're able, as the Girl Scout Spirit of Nebraska Honor Guard retires the color guard. Excuse me, retires the colors. Color guard, retire the colors.
Stand by. Colors. Attention. Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Left. 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 Right. Left. 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 Right. Left. Mark. Time. Color. Halt. Colors turn march.
Present orders. Orders.
Please be seated. We have a few thank yous before we wrap up today's ceremony. But again, I want to thank you all for being here for the 82nd anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. I'd like one more round of applause for Peggy Murphy and her words. Thank you. I'd like to thank Councilman Brodey Weber, Diane Bartels for their remarks. Also, Parker Averill, Brian D. Boesiger, Greg Dorn, and Jeff Gronewold and Brian Stelzer for sharing their beautiful music today. And the Girl Scouts, Spirit of Nebraska Honor Guard, and their coordinator, Maria Reiter. Round of applause for them too. Events like today and the garden did not happen without us recognizing the generous donors for this campaign. This campaign funded and updated the Bricks of Honors displays in Veterans Memorial Garden just outside the doors of Auld Pavilion. The donors are listed on the signage at the back of the room. Thanks also to project partners Arrowstone and the Lincoln Park and Recs Department. Because of their collective efforts, the garden will remain a special place for generations to come. Also, thank you to Hy-Vee and for donating the food and refreshments. And also, we have the Blue Star moms have always supported what we do here in the garden, and I want to give them a round of applause as well for helping us. The flags and some of the other things that take place out in the garden are all to be attributed to Mark Orr and the volunteers from the Lincoln East Rotary Club that raised the flags for all of our different events. And then we'd also like with that, Sean Quinn and his team from the Southeast District team, they're the all ones that keep it looking beautiful out there and also ring the bell and help us with numerous projects that take place here in the garden. So round of applause for all of them. As we wrap up today's ceremony, I'd like to please stay and enjoy some refreshments and things we have here. You know, what a beautiful day we have today. If you do get a chance, if you have some extra time and you have not walked around the garden, please take that time to do that. It is really, again, it's a jewel of our city and a jewel of our state, so thank you. We all hope that we get to see you all again next year, and also take a look at some of the other events that we have here in the garden with Memorial Day and the Bricks of Honor. Once the summer starts, there's really some great events that take place here in the Veterans Memorial Garden. Finally, on behalf of the Veterans Memorial Garden Advisory Council, thank you again for joining us today as we remember the events of 82 years ago. As President D. Roosevelt described the events while addressing a joint session of Congress the following day, it is indeed a date which will live in infamy. Let us never forget the price of freedom. Thank you all and have a wonderful day. Thank you.